you guys can have a new view of things and sort of understand everyone. It's very important for everyone to understand what's going on. And also, by the time we get to certain projects, I'd like you to, because what I would like to do is to get you to implement, say, for example, project 10 has a combination of, let's say, 7, 8, 9, 10, or 8, 9, 10. So 8, 9, 10 projects, they sort of relate with each other. So 8 could be a starting point of something, while 9 could be to add maybe just one or two things on top of what you did in project 8, and then project 10 will be a summation of everything. Now, to help save a lot of time, what I would then recommend we do is to have you guys focus on project 8 and 9 before I then implement project 10, which sort of summarizes everything. So project 10 is going to touch base on those two previous projects. And that way we'll be able to save a lot of time. And then I can spend enough time explaining everything as I go along on that particular project. Because as of today, we should have been in a project that is higher than project 3, and we still haven't completed project 3, which is fine. I kind of understand, because these are really, really complex things to understand, especially when you're new to IT. But what I would plead of you guys is to make sure that you watch the videos. Yeah, I will. I'll start the recording by the time I start the proper. But I'm just saying these out there for now so that we understand where we're heading and how we're moving. So for now, we'll try to review what we've done as well by the time we get to project 5. But I just want you guys to ensure that during the week you spend time watching those videos, and as much as you can, try to understand what's going on. If you have difficulty understanding anything at all, don't hesitate to ask questions. Don't. Very important at this stage. Okay? All right, so just give me for 5 minutes while we wait for others to join, so that I can do a few more tests and clear my table. And by the way, I would also appreciate a lot more interaction and engagement from you guys. We only have maybe just 3 or 4 people that respond to questions and ask questions. It would be very important if we get engagement from everyone. I mean, if we have 30, 40 people on the session and only 5 of them are sort of interacting with me, we do need to ensure that this seems like a physical class as much as possible. I can understand we're all remotely positioned in different parts of the world, but thanks to technology, we're very close to each other. So the more you can engage with me, the better it will be, so that I can also add a lot more value for you guys. I'm also thinking probably we should start project 3 from the beginning again, rather than continue from where we stopped yesterday, so that we can have take a few steps backward and then just carry on again. Maybe it will help, although I wouldn't spend too much time like I explained yesterday, but maybe that would help. You guys just let me know. Just post something in the comment if that's worth it, or we should just carry on from where we stopped yesterday. And guys, don't forget to always use the Slack channel for communication. By the time I start sharing my screen, I don't get to see Zoom chats okay on another screen. So I get to see the message that they pop in from. So I have two people say, just how many people do we have? We have about 27 people on the call, but we only have 4 people. This is very important. We have people interact, get engaged so that we don't make decisions that affect you. Let's have a good quorum when we're asking for things. Really important, right? Okay. All right. You can see me. Slept for quite a long time today. So, when you sleep too much, sometimes it causes headache. Okay. Let's get started. Are you guys ready? Okay, so we have more people. Okay, begin review of it before we start. Yeah, maybe. Okay, but don't worry. Who that again today? People look really quick. All right. Oh, actually,
In progress.
awesome. Thank you very much. The screen. All right, guys. Again, so that we carry on our adventure. This is such to become a DevOps engineer. It's a long one, but a smooth one as well. So yesterday we started implementing project 3 and we couldn't finish it. But based on the request from a lot of people, we're going to start it from the start again to implement a 3-tier architecture, which is, think of it as a de facto architecture when it comes to company says, hey, we need to build an app. There is a standard architecture, which is like from the high level. Before we start talking about the low level architecture, because architectures come, which is going to be a full blown architecture of how the networks is going to be set up, how security is going to be considered, how the servers communicate with each other, what tech stack to use for data storage in the cloud and things like that. Everything that has to do with the cloud, there's an architecture for it. For software architecture, there's another kind of architecture that we usually have, and that can start talking about things like, oh, are we having a monolith, which is like one huge, gigantic application packaged in just one file? Or we're going to break it down into services whereby every component in the application is going to be split into individual applications, and then they talk to each as though they were a standalone applications. That's another architecture. And then within that sort of architecture, you will then begin to see things like, oh, what's the data communication going to be like? Are we going to be having caching? What tech stack is going to be in Java, PHP, Perl, Python? What are the endpoints going to be like in terms of third-party integrations? All those kind of things. That's another kind of architecture. But the architecture that I'm talking about now is a standard IT level, high level architecture of how tech stacks work. And it's a three-tier because you have a client, which is your users interacting from the web browsers. Then you have the backend, which is where the business logic happens. Then you have the third tier, which is the data layer, which is where the data gets stored. So what we're trying to do with Project 3 is to implement a web stack that represents that. We've done similar thing with Project 2 and Project 1 using different web stacks. So there are different web stacks that you can use to implement the three-tier architecture. So that's what we're trying to do. So these things, you can read up on them online, you see diagrams and all that, but we're trying to see here how it's been implemented. It's obviously going to touch base on different aspects that doesn't really affect you as a DevOps engineer. Technically, for example, in terms of the code that will be used to deploy the application, that's not what you will be doing as a DevOps engineer. It's important for you to understand how that area works because you'll be interacting with developers a lot as part of your work. You'll be taking their code and deploying it. And that's the reason why we have to do it end to end, just so that you can see how things go. And even database administrators, they will do it. You don't have to worry too much about it. They will string that you would need to then configure between the application and the database. But we are doing everything. So basically, we're in between applications before there is a nicely designed and it has colors and all. And, it could be any format, but in recent years, it's been more of JSON that gets transferred to applications. And we're going to see that, when the client tries to basically it sends API requests in the form of JSON. All those buttons you're clicking is running some code that is putting the data structure together and basically making it available to the backend system. 1 second, just feeling a bit hot. Just want to put the heater off. All right. Okay, apologies. Now, the first thing I need to do is to get our server set up in AWS. So I believe everyone already have an AWS account, and we also have the private key to log onto the servers. So what I'm going to do today actually is I'll get some of you to do most of the things that I did yesterday. All right, I probably won't do much. So get ready, have the private key. If you don't have it, let me know so that I can send it again. I'll send the IP address of the server, and let's get you guys to interact and do the work, okay? So that we get to understand what's going on. So, all right. We don't have any instance running. So let me launch a new instance. Can someone tell me what Ubuntu is? Just out of curiosity, I just want to know, because I've come onto EC2 now in AWS and I typed in Ubuntu. What exactly is it? I need someone who has never written anything, so far, to please tell me what Ubuntu is. Okay. I'm reusing a security group that we've used previously. So this is just random description that I put previously. So, but what's most important is for you to understand what I'm doing. Okay. So don't get confused. It already has some firewall configuration already, which we've used before. Okay. So actually has said it's one of Linux distros. Ubuntu is an OS running off Linux. It's a Linux distro. Ubuntu is a Linux distribution. Okay. So Ubuntu is a distribution of Linux. So it is not an OS running off Linux. It is OS itself. So it's like your Windows server. It's the operating system that does a whole lot of things. It makes the interaction between the hardware and the software possible. It makes things like multitasking possible, whereby we can have multiple people log on to one computer and each of them are doing different things. The OS makes all of that happen. So it's basically an operating system. It's just a distribution. So when we say a distribution, it's like let me think of something to use. Good. It's like saying Coca-Cola and Pepsi. Both of them have cola, right? So Pepsi is a distribution of cola, and then Coca-Cola is a distribution of cola. Think of it that way. So they're all operating systems. It's just that, it's kind of flavor of Linux operating system. And I did a video on Linux operating system itself, the history, how it came about from Unix and, the guys behind it, so it's an interesting thing to know about. So if you haven't watched that video, please do so. All right. So we're launching our Ubuntu Linux and we're setting the private key so that we can reuse the same private key we've been using. Otherwise, we won't be able to log onto this server. Without private key, we can never get into it. Okay. All right. Okay, so Charles is asking for the private key. All right, so does anybody have it? If you do, please send it. Otherwise, let me just name this and then I'll send it. Oops. There's someone messing about with my computer. Project 3 redo. Okay. Yes, I'm going to share the pen key now. I think I must have pinned it, but let's have a look. All right, there we go. Oh, great. Thanks, David. You beat me to it just before I could send it. All right. So can everyone confirm that they can log on to the server? Let me share this. Yes. So the public DNS is that. So I need everyone to confirm that they can log onto the server. Everyone. If you're on this call, please confirm that you can log onto it. I don't know how many people can actually connect to it at the same time, but let's try to find out. And once you're able to connect, please send a message in the Slack channel saying, I'm in. Just type in I'm in so we know who's in. Now I need someone to go to mongodb.com, create an account and create a cluster. Okay, make sure the cluster is in North Virginia region in one of the availability zones. Well, one of the available ones, and send the connection string for us, including the username and password. So to do that, I need that to connect to the the headache and putting yourself on the spot for further questions, saying MERN and further on saying MongoDB, Express, Node.js, even before you conclude everything you're saying, the interviewer already has a degree of confidence in you. All right. So different teams focus on different web stack or different projects rather is made up of different web stack. Now, when we start talking about microservices and all that, you can see how different solutions can actually combine MERN stack, LAMP, and all of that together for a full-blown solution. That's also possible, okay? But it's also possible to use one web stack for the complete solution. So what we want to do now is to focus on MERN stack for this solution. And the solution, we just want to build a web app that allows us to write our to-dos. You know, like I have a Chrome extension that actually allows me to do to-dos, similar, something like that. You know, I just configured it. You know. Okay, let me just quickly do that. So you have an idea. Okay, so basically this is an app that has to do. So I can actually, or you can see I have a number of to-dos here already, and that's pretty much what we're trying to do with this app. So something that allows us to just write to do, say today I want to do this, do that. That's a solution. As you can see, that's a Chrome extension that I've just shown you, which is a software, right? It may be running MERN stack, it may be running LAMP stack, it may be running anything, So that's exactly what we're going to be doing today. So first off, three-tier architecture, right? We need a Linux server to run the backend. Okay. We could decide that we're going to need another Linux server to run the database. But in our case, we're using the software as a service to run the database backend. It doesn't matter what you use, because at the end of the day, the software as a service provider is running the database for you on some Linux server, right? So, it doesn't matter where it's running. As long as we have connectivity to it, then we're able to connect to it and, pull all the architectures together. So what we'll do is focus on the backend initially. So to do that, we already have our Linux server up and running, and I can see some people have logged on. How many people do we have logged in? We have Tosin, we have Femi, we have Uzo, we have Obie. Okay, we have four people so far. So let's have more people log on to the server. If you're using Windows, you can use Mobile Extern, Git Bash, Cygwin. There are a number of there's a number of what's it called client tools that you can use to log on. All right, thanks guys for confirming that. So this is the end product, the to-do app. This is the front end. You can see, you can just put your text in there, click on add to do, and then you have it listed right there. Okay, that's the end goal. All right, so let's go on. So the first thing is we want to update and upgrade. So who's going to do that for us? Do both update and upgrade. And once that is done, then the next thing is to install Node.js. So to install Node.js, okay, so Charles says he will. And Tosin, what does done mean? I need to understand what you mean. What are you doing that is done? Let us know. So for us to install Node.js, we need to update the apt repository so that we can tell it where to get the software package from. Okay. All right. So thanks for the update ongoing. That's awesome. And okay, so Charles initially said he was going to do something. So maybe Charles can do the upgrade. Okay, so we have a number of people that have done the updates. All right, cool. So who's going to do the upgrade? I guess that's what Charles wants to do. So let's get someone else working on the upgrade. And who's going to do the installation? So the installation, what I would like you to do is, first of all, and when you do things, send screenshots in Slack so that we can see that what you're doing is done. So we don't just take your word for it. Now, whoever's going to do the installation, first of all, I need you to run this command so that it updates the apt repository. Then send us a screenshot of the apt repository, how it's been updated. Okay. So let me send this command in the channel. All right. Who's doing the installation? And this is the next. But before you run this, I need to see the output of this, how it's been updated. Okay, so Obafemi, please do that and make sure you send a screenshot of the apt repo, how it's been updated. I need to say that. I need to make sure that you understand what you're doing there. And I want everyone that is logged on to also confirm that the apt repo is being updated. So how are you going to do that? Actually, let me get my Linux server up and running. Let me connect to the server actually. Identity file. Oh, I didn't specify the identity file. And by the way, most people, when they see error messages, they get scared, and that's not good. Error messages are actually good because they tell you what the problem is, and it tells you the answer to it as well. As you can see, I didn't specify my identity file. I ran it initially without identity file, and it gave me a message. And when you read the message, you can tell it says no such file or directory. So identity file not accessible. It thinks this is the identity file. That's what's going on because I said -I and then I specify all of this. So that's things that I am saying is my identifier, which doesn't exist. But once I corrected that, it was able to connect. All right, cool. You can't see my terminal. Okay, am I not sharing my screen? Let me see. Were you seeing the? Were you actually? Oh, are you saying it's small? Okay, I think that's what you mean. Can you see the terminal? Okay, good. So upgrade is done, Charles says, and okay. So you now, Bafemi, I can see that you have run the script. Now, what I need you to do is to confirm for us that the apt repo has been updated. Because if we run apt install Node.js, how does apt know where to get Node.js from? So I want you to confirm that for me. Okay, so Michael is trying to connect and he's having some errors. So first of all, the SSH command is wrong. So can somebody help him right there? Can someone help him? Looks like he's having difficulty understanding how to put the SSH commands together. So I need a volunteer to try to help him right now in this Slack channel. Okay, so back to Charles. I need you to tell me how we would confirm that apt repo has been updated so that when we run apt install, this is, so you can either run apt get install or apt install. They do the same thing. It's just a bit of differences between the two commands, but it's basically the apt package manager used to install software. All right, so, okay. All right, so I'm not getting response from Charles. So what I'm going to do is, can anyone else confirm this? So we can see that Charles has actually run this script, and we do know what the script is doing. It's actually there to update the apt repository, telling it where to get the package from. Okay, so I need someone to tell me how to confirm that. By the way, in fact, let me run the script again. The answer to what I'm asking is actually being this command. It says my internet is unstable. I hope you can still hear me. I hope you guys can still hear me. I hope I'm not breaking out. Okay, so how do we confirm that apps repo has been updated? I need someone to answer me, please. Okay. No. Okay. So no one is answering that. So basically, remember when I was saying some of these echo commands yesterday? Echo all of these into a file. This is what the script you executed is doing. So part of what it's doing is it's updating a file on the system. And where is the file? This is the file. Okay, this is the file it's updating. So if we list this is a folder. This folder is inside the apt folder. The apt folder is also inside the etc folder. So either folder or directory, you know what I mean. So they mean the same thing. So you would mostly refer to it as a folder on Windows, or in Linux, it's more of directory. So, all right. So inside the sources.list.d directory, we have a file there called node source.list. That's the name of the file. Okay. Now, if I open up this file with cat, you can see it has these two entries. These two entries is our confirmation that that script has worked. And without this, if we run, if I can even delete this, I'm going to delete that file. You know what RM does? So I've deleted the file right now. And if I try to cut it, it doesn't exist anymore. Now let's try to run sudo apt-get install node.js, and you would see what will happen. So let's see, it actually installed it. So what this means is it's actually, that means it has there's another file on the system that has some entries that tells it where to install it. That's the reason why it's able to install it. Otherwise, it would have failed saying it's not able to install it. Okay, because that's also possible, whereby there are other entries on the system that has location to where the software package is. All right, we can run some apt search commands to actually tell us where that is coming from, but I don't want to go into that. But what I'm trying to get you to understand with this is the fact that apt as a package manager is a tool that we use to install software, and it relies on some files on the system to tell it where to get the package from. Okay. All right. So let's just move on with that. Now let's verify that node is actually installed. Okay. So let's quickly go back to, what I just explained now. We deleted a file that tells it where to find Node.js, and then we run apt-get install, and it's still installed Node.js. But what you would notice is the version of Node.js installed is not the same one that we installed yesterday. So that means wherever on the system that it finds the location to install Node.js, that particular location is pointing to a version that is old. Okay, It's pointing to a version that is old. And that's the reason why that script, which is this script here, is there to ensure that it installs a certain version that we need, which is 12.x. All right. And confirming node installation tells us that this installation is from a different location. Okay. And these are the kind of things that happen when you're doing a deployment and you miss a step. Even though this has installed Node.js, but it hasn't installed the version that we require. If you release this to production, this will cause a lot of problems. And that's why it's always important to follow documentations when you are trying to do things, especially official documentation from tools. So if this was an official documentation from Node.js website and they have told us exactly what to do, just copy and paste the commands exactly. If you miss a step, it's going to do something, even though it hasn't failed, it's done something that we don't intend. So someone has unmuted himself, so please mute yourself. Okay, so let me try to mute everyone. Let me see if I can mute everyone. Okay, yeah, I found the culprit and you've been muted. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to have to run this back. So I'm going to have to remove that installation so that we don't end up with a version of Node that we don't intend. So, and by the way, say for example, I don't know, it's okay to go to YouTube and just ask, you know, how to remove with apt on Ubuntu. You can get tons of information. How to use apt command, no. How to uninstall the software. That's what we want to do. On Ubuntu, we want to uninstall the software. Okay, look at that. Sudo apt-get remove and then the name of the application. So let's do that. And what's the name of the application? Node. Unable to look at Apache Node.js. Yes. And now it's removed. So if I do node-v, it doesn't exist anymore. So now let's do it properly. So now it's going to update that file again. Remember the file we deleted. Node source.list. And now you can see it has a top one. So if we now try to install Node.js again, what I've done there is I did Control R to bring back my previous command. So if I do Control R, it's gone into reverse I search. And if I just do install, I'm just going to type install. I haven't even finished typing install. I just inst, and it's going to give me a suggestion of a previous command that run. So I'll just hit enter. And now you're going to unpack 12 dots, whatever. And if I now node b, you can see 12.22.6. Okay, so that's the importance of that particular file. You know, it tells apt exactly where to get that installation from. Okay, so let's carry on. So we're going to do a couple of things. So we're going to have to create a directory, and we're going to run npm init. So who's going to do that for us? You're going to create a directory, so you're inside the directory and run npm init. Okay. So who's going to do that for us? Obi is asking, with there any sort of conflict if you install the right version without honest? Oh yes, definitely there will be conflict and it's going to cause a lot of problems. So the best thing is to uninstall it and then put the right one there. Okay. Um, because Charles has done something previously, let's see if there's someone else who hasn't done anything that would like to do this. Anyone? Any volunteers? Someone who hasn't done anything so far. I want everyone to be involved in this. It's very important because this is hands-on. The more you do it, the better you'll be at it. Okay, so Oladipupo has volunteered. So yeah, carry on. Let's have you do that. So you're going to create the tool and you're going to run the init. And I want someone else to confirm the init that he ran. So how are we going to confirm that this init command has worked? Who's going to do that for us? Who's going to give us that confirmation that init has been executed? Oh, sorry. Okay, so Oladipo said someone has created. So please, before you create anything, let us know so that we know who's doing what. Okay. So, all right. So someone has actually done it, and it's going to get to a point where everyone would have their own unique access to the service that we use. We're all sharing the same user right now. So if anyone does anything, we wouldn't know who did it. Okay. And this is a very good lesson so that we know the importance of everyone having their own access, and especially using sudo. Imagine someone runs sudo to do something in their own name. You've used an elevated command to do something that has broken the system. We can actually investigate on that system to track it down to who did it. Okay. So bear that in mind when you start working on live systems. Bear that in mind that your identity is very important. When you do things, you have to be careful. You have to make sure you know what you're doing. Otherwise, there are tools on the system that tracks every activity. All right. So, Oladipo, thank you very much, and thanks for confirming that this has been done. So let's see, cat package.json. So we have a to-do app, and the index.js is the entry point, and the version is 1.0. And thank you, author is so Dipo actually did the npm init. Okay, so what we need to do next? So now we need to install Express and create the roots directory. Who wants to do that? Okay, thank you, Zoma, for confirming that you created the to-do. Who would like to help us with the next phase whereby we will install an Express? And by the way, has anyone no one has confirmed they're going to be doing the MongoDB. So who's doing MongoDB? Who's creating the MongoDB cluster and to give us the connection string to connect to the MongoDB database? So BA says that it timed off and it can't connect. Okay. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. Quite a lot. 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 5, 36, 37. Over, okay, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42. About 42 sessions open. So that means, it doesn't mean that 42 people have logged on, but one person may have 2, 3 sessions open. So about 42 sessions. I'm just thinking maybe there is an overload of the system. So we have a total of 3.8 gig memory, and we still have 2.1 gig free on the system. So it's fine. I don't think we have an overload due to the different connections. But you can try to log in again. Let's see. All right. So no one has actually confirmed if they want to do Express installation. Okay. No one is confirming that. Come on, guys. We have like 40 or so connections. It's okay to break the system. This is not production system. So don't be scared that you're going to break something, all right? Or you want me to start calling names? I can actually call names if you want. You guys have to be involved in this. You've requested that we do project 3 again. And I'm not just going to be talk at you understanding what we're doing. Okay, thanks, Buffett. So please do the Express. So who's doing the MongoDB setup? Thanks, Tipo, for asking again. If no one recommends themselves, I'm gonna start calling names. Lashes, I'm not able to connect to Zero just yet. Just still filter it down. I have the right. Okay. All right. Cool. Lashes, I'm going to look for a name to call. They usually say ladies first, right? So let me find a lady. Let me find a lady. Tosin. Yes. I found a lady. And please create MongoDB cluster, okay? Okay, Solomon says he already has an account on MongoDB. Okay, are you saying that you want to? Okay, all right, Solomon, go ahead then. Tosin, I'll reserve that for you. Call you in. Okay, so who's doing install of Express? And then we need to create the index.js, put the we also need to install .env then npm. So we need someone, whoever's doing the install of Express should also do the .env installation. And then for the application, who's going to do that? So there's two now. Someone is going to install two things with npm, and we need someone else to put the application code for the index.js. You know what index means and what it does, point of the application. So who's going to be doing that? No, David, not you. I don't want you to put the application code. I want someone else. I want someone else to put the application code. I want someone else to run and install. Okay. You guys have requested that we redo this. Did you think I was going to do everything again? No way. You guys are going to do it yourself. Thank you, Tosin. You're going to do the application code. All right, cool. So you can actually do that by side while someone is installing Express. So you have to wait. So who is installing Express and .env? And I'm going to try to confirm. That's the, oh, someone has done the index.js already. Okay. Oh no.
Oh, I think it's another person, David.
Oh really? Oh okay.
Yes.
Right. Okay. Apologies. Okay, I actually thought it was a different David. Right. So now I know we have a different David. All right. So apologies for that. I just checked your email now. Way forward. Okay. All right. So yes. So David, you can go ahead and put the um, application code now. Oh, great. Thanks about me. So Express has been installed, so we can confirm that from node modules. Yep, so we have Express inside the node modules. Express is there. And did anyone do the .env? Let's see if we have .env. So I'm going to the grep and find env. No, we don't have that. Express. Okay. So if you're wondering what I've just done, you know what this command does? It's going to split everything inside this directory, right? But I don't want everything spat out like that. So what I can do is I can put this pipe, you can see this long pipe, and then type grep like grab, grep, and then I'm saying grep express. So if you find express, just express for me rather than and I want to see if there is env. Oh, great. Now we have .env. So someone has done the installation. Thank you, Solomon. So now have our um, string to MongoDB. Awesome. Awesome. You guys are awesome. Thanks a lot. Thank you. You're making my life easy so we can actually move. Okay. So what do we have? We now we have node install, we have npm install, we have the which is .env, okay, and we can actually run it now. We haven't connected to the database yet, but we can just run the servers. Everything is fine. So someone please note in the ears and let's just see we can get something. So let's see. So nothing. I'm running it. Nothing yet. Okay, we can't connect yet. Oh, actually, it should be on 5. Is it 5,000 or 3? Yeah, 5,000. So who's going to run? Thank you, Tosin. The application code is done. So now we can run node index.js. So, oh, Tosin, no. No, 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 no. Application code is not done. So let's confirm that. So the application code should be inside index.js. So where did you do it? Yeah, we'll do that. Yeah, I will, sort of talk about it. And I'll do that when everything is completed. So we'll talk about the order, we'll talk about how it all fits together, just to give you that stamp of clarity, very important. Okay, so yes, index.js is empty. And that's the reason why we cannot reach the application. That's the reason why we're running. So Tosi, what have you done? You've done the index.js code, but it is empty. It's empty. So do you want to mute yourself and just say something? Have you done thing? Have you done it somewhere else? That's I want to find out if Tosin has actually created that file somewhere else on the system apart from.
I think I
Okay.
I think I did it.
Okay.
So maybe I'm on the server or something. But I can see it on my hand.
Okay, I've seen where you did it. So you actually did it inside roots. Yeah. So that's what happened. So we haven't started doing anything on roots. Okay. So this is good because it shows that there is knowledge gap in some places and we just have to fill that gap. So now
Okay, I have
what
to
we're
see
trying to
the
do
to do first before I run.
exactly,
Okay.
exactly.
Sorry for
So
that.
you did it, that's fine. You did it inside roots. And roots is like, think of roots as another part of the application that has its own, JavaScript files. What we're dealing with at the moment is the root entry, the entry point into the application, and that's the index.js file, right? And that's the file we need code inside so that when we go to the web page, it's able to tell us that, oh, now you're on this site is working, this application is running. If you now navigate the application and start putting root / this and that, that's where roots come in. Make sense? All right. So now what I need you to do is to delete the file you created in roots and then update the index.js in the to-do application because we're talking about the to-do application. So do you want to quickly do that? So Tostin, can you confirm that you're doing that so that we know? Let's see if there is something that we can do be on the side while Tostin is trying to do that. Okay. So can someone let me know if they'll be interested to work on the roots? And I'll explain again what the roots is about, what it does, why we need it. Okay, so who wants to work on roots? So what you're going to do on roots is you create a root folder, which I think it exists now. You go into the root folder, you create a file, a JavaScript file called api.js. Okay, and then inside your api.js, you will put this code in there. Who wants to do that? Okay, thanks, Justice. Go for it. Go for it. Come on. Tosin, where are we? Have you done that? Okay, we're still waiting for you, Tosin. And let me see if you have deleted the. So I need you to delete this file, Tosin, and I need you to update this file. And I hope you understand why we do that. Does anybody not understand why Tosin has to do what she's doing? Does anybody not understand? If you do not understand, please specify in the chat. I need to know if you don't understand, if you're not following along. Okay, OBA says he doesn't get it. Okay, so here is it. We're building an application called To Do. That application, okay, Uzuma, now let me explain again. We're building an application. That application is called To Do. And every files and folders that has to do with To Do will be inside a folder named, right? So if I do pwd, which is present working directory, it means where I am currently in on the server. It's just like saying on Windows, C drive. If you click on your C drive on Windows, you will see some folders there, and then you see users, and then you see maybe desktop downloads or whatever, right? If you click inside users, you would then see maybe your name. If there's more than one user on the system, you will see maybe guest or another user. And then if you go into your name, you click on the folder, you go into that folder, then see desktop folder, download folder, and all that. Yeah. So all those clicking going into the folder is what's going on here, this place. So this is your root folder, like your C drive, okay? And then inside your C drive is another folder called home, right? Inside home is a folder called Ubuntu. Ubuntu is the name of the user we're using to connect to the server, right? Inside Ubuntu folder, we have a folder that we created called to do, because the name of the application we are building is called to do. Now I have clicked on the folder to go inside the folder. I'm just using the word click just so that you sort of understand. We're not using click here because we can't click. This is a terminal. So we have to run commands to go in the folder. So I can copy this. If I want to go into that folder, I just do cd, I paste the folder directory. So that's the reason why it's called directory, because you're moving from one directory to another, from one folder to another. Go into the folder. Now I'm in the folder. Now in this folder, we need to create a file called index.js. That is the root entry for that application. So that when we go to, the application is called todo.com. If we go to todo.com, the system is going to run the code that is in the index.js. All right. Now, index.js is currently empty. It needs to have code to run. Okay. So we asked Tulsi to create that index.js and put the code in there. But she mistakenly went into a different folder and created the index.js there and put the code in there. For that reason, when we went to the browser, here, it's saying this site can't be reached. Like, it's not working, basically. It's not working because nothing is running. The application is not running. Yeah. So now we're asking her to fix the problem by deleting this file that she created in this folder because it's not supposed to be there. And then updating the index.js, which is inside the to-do folder, which is this one. So this ls command is listing the directories and files in the folder that I'm currently in. In this case, I'm in the to-do folder. So listing what's in the to-do folder, we have index.js and we have all these other ones. So this is the file that we need Tosin to update. And that's the reason why we are having there. So Tosin, you still haven't updated this. Does anybody want to help? We need her to delete roots and index.js. Okay, so Uzoma, please go ahead. All right, good. Yes, go ahead and try. So is it clear now? Obe, yeah, you said you do not great. Uzoma, is it clear what we're trying to do? Awesome. Nice. Okay, so Uber has removed it, but I think Uzoma is trying that. So okay, so I think you removed Next.js. Actually, you didn't remove it. Because I can still see it in roots. So why did you remove the index.js about February? Because it's still here. I hope you haven't removed from one of the node modules. Can you do PWD of where you're, so that we can track down where you've removed? Very important. If you remove a file that you shouldn't, then you've broken the system. Come on, guys. We don't have a lot of time. Oh, awesome. So we have our file updated. And how about roots? So root still has the index.js. We need to remove that as well. Come on, I'm waiting. This file needs to be removed because it shouldn't be there. Nice one, Uzomo. Who's removing this file? I don't want to remove it. I want someone to remove it, and I want someone to run the server. I want you to run the web server. We still have a lot to do, guys. Let's try to move. Okay. We have here. So what we need to do, yeah, before we do all these routes, I want us to run the server so that you basically just need to run node and index.js. Let me check the command. Okay. Let me see. Oh, great. Cool. Thank you. Someone has removed it. Thank you very much. So who is running the, I need someone to run Node.js. All you need to do is just run this node and then index.js, just so that we can run the web server. So you just need to make sure you run this inside the to-do. So Solomon, I don't know if someone has confirmed that they want to do the routes, and I'll explain what the route is doing. Has anyone confirmed they're going to be doing the route? I think Justice mentioned that she's doing that, yeah? Okay. Oh, great. Okay. So we'll confirm what Justice has done now. Okay. So Solomon, hang on fire while we. Okay. So we have Mehboob is trying to run the application and it's failing because we have a syntax error. Okay. So let's have a look. So if we run node index.js, okay. We need someone to help us troubleshoot this problem. Now we're trying to run the application. By the way, this is a classic example of some of the things that sometimes you may get as a DevOps engineer, and developers will say, oh, we're running our build and it's failing. And then they turn to DevOps for help. Now you have to troubleshoot this. Okay, so now the error message says syntax error, identifier express has already been declared. So what would you do to troubleshoot this? I mean, you're not a developer. You're not a developer. You didn't write this code. And someone is bringing this to you to say they're having an error. What's your first instinct based on the error message? What would you do first? I need people to give me some suggestions. Now, I'm not asking you to solve this problem right now, but I just want to see if you try to think through what you would do first to begin to troubleshoot this.
Yeah, that,
Yes?
yeah, I think one has to check the last time what you did last before the program. I mean, before the error message came on. on your screen. You need to check what you did last. From there, you know what code you wrote and what may have happened along the line. Maybe you begin to trace it from there.
I like that. I like that trend of thought. And let me just put it in context. What was it? Just I just
Yeah,
something
justice.
now.
Yeah, justice.
Okay, justice, great. Now, because what you just said, I do that as well. So when a developer comes and they're saying, oh, we have an error or something is going on, one of the things you want to do is you want to try to track down first the last time the code was working. Imagine this is a system that had been working before and all of a sudden it stopped working. You want to try to track down the last time it was working and then try to figure out what has changed between that time and now that it's failing. So that's a good point, you know, to think about when you're troubleshooting things. Now, in this case, it's never worked before. It's never worked before. This is the first time we're trying to build this environment and we're trying to deploy this application and it's failing. So this is the first time the developers are giving us the code. Sometimes it might be the DevOps engineer that is trying to deploy the application that sees this error. Okay. If you see an error like this, it's okay to go back to the developers and say, hey, your code is failing, go and fix it. But sometimes before you go ahead and do that, you spend like maybe 10, 15 minutes to dig into it, to try to understand why it's failing. So that when you're telling them it's failing, you're also giving them recommendation or suggestions based on the initial analysis that you've done. That way, you will be considered a different type of DevOps engineer than one that just says, hey, your code is failing, take, go and fix it. You know, you'll be respected more because, you know, you've tried to dig into it and try to understand. What you said may actually not be correct, but at least you've tried to say, hey, your code is failing, but I think it may be this. You can check there, you know, very important. Now, does anybody have anything else? So open it, try to locate Express. Good. Maybe that's a very good approach as well. So because the syntax error is saying that Express has already been declared. It's already declared. So what you want to do is open the file, okay, and say, okay, if it's saying it's already been declared, maybe there's a duplicate. We don't know. Let's try to find out. Okay, and now this may be a file that has thousands of lines. I don't want to be going line by line and find where Express is and try to, you know. So there's a number of things you can do. You can now take note of this. So these are kind of tricks that you can just write down somewhere and always use all the time. So when you open up Vim like that, you can do, I think it's colon set number. Okay, good. So you can write colon set space number so that your file can now have lines. Okay, now I have lines numbered so that at least if I'm going to say to a developer that, oh, your code is failing, I want to tell him that at line number so and so. Okay, all right, and then we will then do /. So I've now done / and I want to search for Express. I'll say Express and then hit enter. So we have an occurrence Express here. Correct. This what I'm right now, you might want to watch this video later on to practice it again. It's a trick to always use to troubleshoot within Vim. So you can type N to go for the next. So it's gone from the first Express here to the next Express, and it's quite fine because it's still on the same line. So it's a same line of code. So let me do another N. Okay, so we have const app equals express function. Okay, that looks like it's reusing, you know, what was defined here because const means constant, right? And that sort of might be fine. I'm not a developer, so I don't know, but it looks like, I mean, it's not a duplicate, I can tell, because this is saying something, this is saying something else, even though there's both expressed there, you know. So I still want to dig in further. So then I can do another N, and then I may have a bit of concern because I have a terminator here. So there's a terminator here. Oops, my mouse was written that, but you can ignore on. So I have a terminator here, and then I have this const express equals required express, which was here. This may be the problem. It may not be the problem, but at least I have something. Can then go to the developer and say, you know what? You might want to check line number 20. I think the duplicate or something, I don't know, error says that it's already been declared. So it might be a situation where there's a duplicate. So that's sort of how to go through, you know, troubleshooting things. Okay. The developer might just say, you know what, I know the code already, rather than spend a whole lot of time trying to figure things out. I'm just going to take the file and recreate it. Sometimes it's easier that way because the code is probably checked into Git, and the one in Git is probably tested working perfectly. You know, so if what we have, assuming our code, where is it? Maybe here, index. Okay, so assuming this code is in Git. By the way, we'll talk about Git soon. Assuming this code is in Git, I just go back to Git, copy it, and just remove here this one, and just recreate it in the JS, and then copy and paste it in there. So this time, I'm putting a working code. So, who ran the Node.js? It was Mabul. So Mabul, I run the server again, and let's see if it's gonna work. So, OBA said, good old Google. Well, certain things Google cannot help because if it's okay, I mean, you can put this in Google. Let's see, if you put this in Google, let's see what it says, because Google doesn't really know about your code, but it can give you an idea of what might be the problem. So let's see. Now, take note. This one in quote is something in your file. So you might want to remove that because, you know, you don't, how am I going to say this? You want to say something to Google, and as well, you don't want, imagine if the text was Dari. Maybe text itself. On Google, no one else in the world has written an app that has Dari as a content in it. So you want to put in the more generic thing and type that in Google and just hit enter. So you can see, so there is indeed some people that have some sort of problems, and let's see what people are saying. So it's also a JavaScript code, and this person says, sure, but you didn't use var for the declaration of a, you use a function declaration which does that. So as you can see, it may not really relate to what you're looking for because, you know, this is a specific problem. Someone has put a duplicate code in your application. So sometimes you might not get all the help from Google. Trust me, sometimes it might be more frustrating, you know, relying on Google. And that's why all this concept is sort of quite important for you to understand yourself. Okay. All right, Mabul, where are we? Are you able to, you're able to run the application? Let's check. Let's check if the application is running. Brilliant. Now we have an application. Oh, great. Uzama running. All right, cool. So we have an application running. It's running fine. So the next thing now is to now begin to configure our routes, because this is the front page. Imagine if we had another button here that says go to do application, which is in the root. If you click on it, it just takes you to something like this, API/to-dos. That's what we want to achieve now. So now we want to start configuring our route. So the root we want to configure is to-dos, which is inside the API folder. Okay, so let's do that. So who is configuring our roots? Who's configuring our roots? Okay, yeah. So all you have to do is create a directory called root. In the directory, you create a file called api.js. Okay, just as we'll wait for you. And then you put this code in there. And by the way, this is still a dummy code at the moment because it's just declaring the gets, the post and delete. It's not really putting any logic in there, okay? Once you do that, we now need to create, set up the model section. And that's where it needs to connect to the database because the root requires connectivity to the database because you're writing to-do lists, right? And you need to post the data and store it somewhere so that when you need to retrieve it, it needs to go to the database and get the data back. So we'll do the roots, and then someone else needs to do the models. So who's going to do the models for us? The models is the part where we will put the details for the database connectivity and stuff. Now, was it Solomon? Solomon has already done for us the MongoDB setup. So we have a MongoDB cluster and a connection string. Let me get that and post it again. All right. So this is our connection string. So who's going to be doing the section? Now let's see if root has one. Okay, so nothing. So we were expecting the roots to be configured, and that means you have to create this api.js file and put this content. Who's doing that? I think it's Justice. Or who is it? Come on, guys, don't be scared. Don't worry, if you break it, we will troubleshoot and we'll fix it. All right. So
Derek.
yeah, Solomon, good. Yes.
Yeah, I've already done that. I came out of to-do folder and I came into, I seeded it out of the to-do folder.
Okay.
Then I now came the server itself, the Ubuntu server. Then I created the directory.
Okay. Okay. So that's not where you should do it. Because now this is outside the scope of the application. Everything we're doing is inside the application.
Okay, to do application.
Yeah? Yes.
So
what you've done
I shouldn't have seeded out of the to do.
Exactly.
So let me go back to doing that.
Okay, yeah. So you can so you can hold fire and you can work on the models, okay? Work on the models. So let's just finish up what he started. So let's see. He has his API.js. And then, but just as there is no content in your API.js file, so while you are fixing that problem, make sure that you put the content so that we're sure. Okay, cool. So, Solomon, are you working on the model? This is, where's the model section? Boop said he's on the root. Just as someone is contending with you right there. Let's have a look. Roots. And okay. So someone has already done the roots API.js.
Okay.
That's fine. At least you understand now what's going on. Okay. So it's always good to make mistakes sometimes so that we can learn from it. So my terminal is not responding after around. Okay, so if you yes. So your terminal is responding. It's just running the it's running the server in the front end. Okay, it's running it. Actually, let me not use the word front end because that will confuse you. It's running the terminal on the surface of the terminal, and you can't do anything again unless you cancel it. And when you cancel it, we cannot run. We cannot go to the application again. We won't be able to do this. Okay, we won't be able to see that. So it's running in the foreground. So we call it foreground. And when you run it in the foreground, you can't do anything again. It's just going to stuck there. Now there are ways to run things in the background. We'll get to that later to your. So Ultima, this is your exactly process management tactics. Actually good. I think you've watched some videos on process management. Now you can see the implication of this because now we have a process that is running the application. Okay, and this is the process right here. See, it has a process ID. Okay, and we can see that man is running is node index.js. This is exactly what Uzoma ran to get this server, the web server running. If we kill this process now, we won't be able to reach the application again. Okay, so I think this ID is, which one is it? Let's try to kill that. So we've killed that process. If you refresh, you can see it's gone because now we've killed process running that. And if we run this, now you can see that this is no longer there. Node index.js is gone because we've killed the process. This is the command I have just run just now. So that's what you're seeing here. Okay. So this is my own terminal coming back to me. You know, this process right here. But this particular process is what will kill, and we can't reach the application. And if I go into to do, and I do index.js again, you can see it's running on the surface foreground, and that's why I can't do anything myself again. If I type something and hit enter, you can see this is exactly what you were facing, right? That's because it's running in the foreground. And if I run it now, we can see the application again. Okay, but so to get out of this, I just need to do Control C, and now the process is dead because it's no longer running. Okay. Oops. Where is it? Okay, so let's refresh. Okay, so that is no longer running. So basically, this is running in the foreground. Now, on a good day, we can actually run it in the background. Okay, so to do that, let's just ask Google how to run process in background Linux. So pretty much everything you can, almost everything you can ask Google, as long as you know what you want to do. All right. Let's try this one. Okay. So all you have to do to run it in the background is to add this ampersand. Yeah. So let's try that. So if I put the ampersand, is actually still running the program. So let me put no hop. Okay, let's try this because then it's passing it to the null. Let's see if that works. Okay, so we have it now running in the background. And if I can refresh, so it's not working. So basically you can run a process in the foreground and the background. So if you're running in the background, then it's running, but now you can take control of your terminal and do stuff. If you're running in the foreground, then it's going to seize that terminal. You have to connect through another terminal and then you can carry on working. Okay. So take note of that. All right. So this was just by the way, but at least you can pick up some new skills there. All right. So let's go back to where we are. So Solomon has done the mongoose and what else? Let's have a look. Okay, so there's three things you need to do: create a model, city models, touch to do .js, and then you can put this code in there. So let's see if you've done that. In the models folder, we need to see if this code is there. Okay, it's there. Thank you. All right. So we have the code that manages, that allows JavaScript to do the whole database schema and stuff. You don't have to worry about that. As long as you have the code and you know what's going on, that's fine. And then now we need to update the roots code. Previously we just put a dummy in there. So now we need to update it so that it can make use of the models, just reference. It's actually making reference to the models to know how to connect to the database and all that, so let's do that. So who's going to do that? You need to update this code in the API.js of the roots. Can someone help us with that? Does anybody want help with that? Any help? I need help. Please, somebody help. Let's have a look. So roots. So we still have the dummy code. You can see the code is just a placeholder. It has these roots .get, so that when we do a get and then post, but it doesn't have any logic in there. So we need someone to help us to update this code. Let me put the code in Slack. So this is code. This is the code we need to update. So can someone help to update our code? Waiting for you guys. All right. So I'll just through the Slack to see if there's anything there. Oops. Okay, thank you. I'm noticing that some people already say anything. Okay, still waiting for you. Let's see if there's something else we can do in the meantime. So we need to, okay, so this has been done already, so we don't have to come back here. So someone needs to create the environment file, okay? So this has to be done inside the to-do directory. So all you have to do is just create this file, .env, and then put the database connection string to it. So let's get the connection string again. Who's going to do that? While Obafemi is working on the updated routes.
I think I've done the updating of routes.
Okay, let me see. All right, that's been updated. Cool, thank you. So make sure that when you do something, always post it in Slack so everyone is on the same page. We know who's doing what. Okay. We're actually collaborating, which is a strong part of DevOps. You know, collaboration is very strong part of DevOps. Meaning,
So, Mr. Yari, sorry, is it
yes.
well updated?
Well, we'll find out when we run the code and it works, then it's well updated. If it doesn't work, then there's a problem. We'll have to troubleshoot that. Okay.
Okay.
So has anyone done this environment file and updated it with the connectivity details to MongoDB? Let me see. Actually, it's a file, so I need the A. Someone is still trying to do something with Dr. That's why we have a swap file. Remember this? We talked about it the first time we started talking. Let me remove this. I created this no hook. Okay. So we're looking for the .env. Okay, Sugar is doing that. Thank you very much. Great, that's been done. Okay. The file has been created. We're still waiting for it to have the details to connect to the database. So while he's doing that, let's see if there's something else we need to do. I want to see if connect to database. Okay, so we still need to update the index.js. So someone needs to do this as well. So the index.js now needs more code, right? It needs more code. Someone should please update it with this code. Because now that we have database connectivity, somebody needs to update the code so that it now knows how to connect to the database. So that's the whole purpose. So this is the code. You might want to take that and update it. So let's see if Sugar has done the env. Sugar, you still haven't updated the .env file. We need it to have the details to connect to the database. Does anybody want to update the index.js? Should I mention the name? Let's see. Who can I mention? Okay, Sugar, you need the database data. I actually posted it previously. I'll post it again. Okay, David, yeah, go ahead and update the index.js. Okay. So AMV, we're waiting. Index.js, we're waiting. So once we have those two, we should be in a position to run our application again. So what we've done is from the time we had just welcome to Express to now, what we now have is a functionality to get to do and also to post to do information. So to do's. So as you can see, I'm running this and it's just giving us welcome to Express. It doesn't have any functionality here right now until we update this code. So index.js is pending. Okay, cats .env is updated. So let's see. We have the MongoDB protocol, and we're connecting as this user, and then we are connecting to that endpoint, and the name of the database is SolomonDB. Awesome. So the next thing is to check the index of JS. So that's still waiting. So David, we're waiting for you to update that. Once we have that updated, we're going to run the application and see if everything ties together. Thanks, Sugar. Okay, it looks like we now have the index.js updated. So you can see it now has a function there that tells it how to connect to the database, and the output message when there is a successful connectivity. So what we're going to do is we are now going to run the application. So let's see if we have the, looks like we still have the, we still have the application running. So let's kill this process. Okay, so that's been terminated. And now let's run it again. Node. My system is messing up. Okay, I'm gonna need to restart this process. Yeah, session restarted. Now let's connect again. Okay, so all right. So now let's go into our application and run node index.js. So everything is fine. All the code that you guys have updated is actually perfect. So thank you very much, guys. You guys are awesome. So now if I refresh this particular, now we have an empty list saying, well, we have endpoints for this API, but it doesn't have any data. So that it has an empty list with the square bracket. So what we now need to do is to test this API, to post data in there and retrieve the data. So who has what's it called? Postman. Does anybody have Postman installed to start doing some tests? Does anybody want to help us with testing with Postman? Yes, Solomon wants to do that. Okay. So actually, with this one, everyone can get involved. Yes, everyone can actually connect to the server. You don't need to physically connect to the server to run the Postman. So all you need is this endpoint. So I'll send this in the Slack channel. Okay. So once you have that endpoint, you should be able to run Postman. Should be able to run Postman. So the request is going to be a post. So you want to run a post command request, and you need to configure Postman for this application. So what you want to do is you want to go to the header section and then put content type equals absent JSON. The type of payload, it's called payload. So the kind of data that we're going to be sending to this API accepts JSON. Okay, so that's why that declaration needs to be there. So you can see, just go to the header section and there, content type equals application JSON. So everyone can do this. As a matter of fact, anyone can do this. Like if you have Postman, everyone can do this. This is not conflicting with anyone. So everyone can do this, okay? So if you have it set up on your laptop, fire it up, do the same thing. You can have hundreds of people do this. It doesn't matter. Okay? All right. So once you've done that, you just want to go to the body, click on raw, and then you have to use this structure. So let me type the structure for you. So it's going to be like this. So colon. Actually, let me type it in my Visual Studio. But yeah, so this is the structure you need. So in front of the action, you can just put whatever into post. So let me post it. I'm going to click on, so you can set up your collection, you know, and then in the endpoint, you have to put this endpoint. So I need to update endpoint. All right. And then raw, make sure the body is raw, and I just send this request. So if I refresh this page, I should see that data back. Great. And I'll actually, Solomon, can you go into your MongoDB and then send us a screenshot that the data is actually written there? Into the database and just show us that your database is receiving this request. All right. So let's have more people post more data, and we'll come back to that. So let's now. So this is where we stopped yesterday. So it's now time to wrap this up and see the end goal. So the remaining part is actually not a lot. So it's just to put the front end to it. Okay, and this is the part, the third part of the 3-tier architecture. But then we'll talk about the order, because someone asked, so we'll talk about the order and all that. It's not like there's a particular order to it, but also there is order to it, what you'll see. It depends on what's going on, but we'll talk about it shortly, okay? So we need another tool to help us create the front end, and that where React comes in. So it's another framework on top of JavaScript. So rather than coding things from scratch, we can leverage this framework to just make development easy and just write a couple of codes, and then we have a nice user interface. Okay. All right. So the book is getting 4.1. Let's have a look at your error. So it's because if you go to the headers, click on headers. Because it looks like the doc type is HTML that you have. So if you go to the headers, make sure it's expecting JSON data, not HTML. Okay. Uzoma is lost. Okay, well, Uzoma, really, we're just exactly where we stopped yesterday. We're just about to now proceed from where we stopped yesterday. So you can leverage on this video afterwards. You can just forward it towards the end where you may have missed out. But what we're trying to do now is to now build a React application on top of what we already have. And React is a framework for front end. So when we say front end, it's that part that puts graphical user interface. We call it GUI. Okay, graphical user interface. Okay, we're going to put it on top of this because, as you can see, imagine if Instagram said when you log on to their application, this is you have to interact with them by typing JSON data from your phone to post your photos. It doesn't make sense, right? It's not intuitive. So we need a graphical user interface that we can literally just click, 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 and make it happen. So that's the part we want to do now. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to run this. So within the to-do directory, we're going to run this npx. So we're running. Is someone trying something? Okay, Rafael has posted something. Okay, so you need to mute yourself. Let me try to see if I can mute someone. Okay. All right. Found the culprit and it's been muted. All right. So I'm going to refresh. So we have more data. Awesome. So testing live at masterclass, updating post for project 3. This is awesome. So you can see we have some people actually testing this API and it's working. Brilliant. So now I'm going to run npx create React app and we're going to call it client. Okay. So let's do that. So I'm going to kill this process so that we can carry on working. And let me quickly run this. Difference between npm and npx. Because we'll be running npm before. Now you need to understand what's the difference, right? So let's see. Okay, so what do we have here? Okay, so npm node package manager versus npx node package execute. All right, and it says the npm starts for node package manager, and it is the default package manager for Node.js, as we already know. I actually don't want to read a lot of this. I just want something really short and quick, straight to the point. Yeah. Well, let's just go with this description from Google. So npx is a tool that used to execute packages. So they both execute packages, right? To install packages. Packages used by npm are installed globally. You have to care about pollution for the long term. Packages used by npx are not installed globally. So you have to care free for the pollution of the long term. So the reason I have to quickly bring this up is because, you know, we can see that npx is doing an installation. But remember, when we do npm, whatever we install goes into the node modules folder. Remember when I was doing the grep to see if it's installed and all that. But npx does not install it globally because we want to make sure that it doesn't pollute the whole structure of the application. So we want it to go into a certain place, and we've called it client. All right. So you can see this is what we've just installed, client. And inside clients, we now have the specific modules for what we've just installed. If we didn't use NPX, it will go into node modules and it will be global. You understand? So because we want to build our front end now, we want to be, very specific of what we need. And we don't basically want to share this module with the rest of the modules, basically. So I just wanted to quickly point that out so that you're not just copying and pasting commands, you know exactly what's going on. All right, so we've done that. The next thing is we now want to use npm to install a tool called concurrently. Okay, and we're passing a flag to it, save dev. Okay. Actually, what does this save dev mean? I can't remember. I think to indicate we're in dev mode or something. So let's just quickly understand this. And this is how I actually, even in real world, when I'm working on project, if I don't understand something, just put it on Google quickly to read about it. So you can see I've actually read it before. You can see it's improper. I just can't remember. Can't remember everything, right? But they're there. Anytime you want to use it, you can always go back to it. So save dev adds the third-party package to the package development dependencies. It won't be installed when someone runs the payment store directly to install your package. It's typically only installed if someone won't choose it first and then runs the install. Basically, what this is saying is that when so we're trying to install this, just that install concurrently, and we pass this into it. So it means we're the only ones using it right now. Yeah. We don't want it to be a tool that will be used when someone else is running this application. That's essentially what this is doing. So we only need it. Like if I'm the developer and I want to install a module, I'm only passing this save dev to say, okay, I'm the only one that wants to use this right now. It's not, the whole application is not dependent on this particular module that I've just installed. That's basically what that means. And we'll see the reason why it's been introduced. Remember when we want to do something with the application, we will stop the process and then start the process again when we're making changes to the files. But what we're going to do now is we'll keep the server running, and while we're making changes to the application, we can see the changes in real time. So that's the only reason why this is being used, okay? And then we're also installing another thing, NodeMon with SafeDev. Okay. Now, in the to-do folder, we're going to open the package.json, and then the highlighted part, we just need to update it. So in the script section, we just need to add this section to it. So let's do that. Package.json. So this is the part that the documentation is asking us to update. So what I'm going to do is I just want to update this part. Which is the scripts, tests. Let me just use double D to delete it. Delete, and delete. Okay. So I for insert and then enter, so that I can now paste that code snippet in here. Where it's messed up the formatting. I'm just going to do that. And then really is expected to come ahead within this. So this part is just saying that it's going to run a command nodemon on index.js, so that it will use that concurrently that we restored just now when we're in dev. so that it will always watch the file. So don't you worry about all this. These are not really ever, kind of thing. These are things that developers use when they're working on their code because they want to make change and see it in real time. But there's a tool, I can't remember, I think it's called, it's actually one of the projects I had, I think in project 26 or so. There's a tool that does this in a more elegant way. Well, we'll see that in the future. Okay, so let's see the client, open the package.json. So went into the client that we just installed. So let's open the package.json. And what do we need to do? We need to update this, add the key value pair to proxy. Okay. So let's find proxy. There is no proxy there, so we just need to add this as a key value pair somewhere. We can add it anywhere. So let's do that here. And then put a comma. Okay, save this. And then we're going to run this. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to run this and leave it open, actually. Okay, yeah, so we have to run it in the to-do. So I need to go back to do, because we need to run the application where the index.js is. So now let's run this. So server is running on port 5000, connect to this successfully, and that will keep running, and it's going to be watching that. So let's now connect to from a different terminal. Oops, that's an old IP address. Let me get the correct one. Okay, so all right, now it's big enough. Carry on. So what we now need to do, so let's go into client, cd source, and create a folder called make component and go into the component. So, and by the way, these are things you can just freely copy and paste. You don't have to memorize any of the things that we're doing here. Okay, so it's just standard procedures. CD client. So inside the client folder, there's a folder called source, src. Okay. And then inside that, we're going to create component. Okay. Now, in components, we're going to create 3 files. So input.js, list.js, and to-do.js. So let's just do that in one shot. Oh, actually, no. I shouldn't have created it in here. Let me remove it. Okay, so cd components, and then touch them here. And now we have these 3 files. Yeah. So each of the files, we're going to have to put this content inside. So this is the code that will make the user interface much more intuitive. So for the input.js, this is the JavaScript code. or the React code that does it. React is just a framework on top of JavaScript. So this would have caused an error if I didn't. So we need to install another library. So source. Okay, so that has to happen inside the client folder, which is here. So we have to go back 2 times. So 1, 2. So cd dot / so it's come back 1 and then go back another time dot again. All right. And now we're in client. So in client, I need to install Axios. So let's go back into the source component. Oops. Running the install command again. Well, I expect this to be idempotent, so running it again shouldn't break anything. So remember we talked about idempotency yesterday, right? Or was it today? I can't remember, but I believe you all know what idempotency means. Okay, Olashile is asking as well. Dev dependencies, NPM would have updated it automatically, or should I say, why do we have to paste that script manually again? Isn't that what NPM does? I'm not sure I understand this question. Dev dependencies. Okay, so let's update the code for the list to do. But yes, so this is the code that actually helps us to list the to do, all the to dos available. So okay, and then this is for our to do.js. Okay. So we're saying here we need to make some adjustments. Okay, in the app.js, let's do that as well. So we have a file here called app.js. So PI app.js. So we didn't create this app.js. It's part of what came with React when we installed it. So it has the, because if we go to, if we refresh this now, I'm sure it will have something there. Actually, no, not the API. So that is still running. Okay, let's update this. Let's delete everything here and paste that. Actually, reduce. Okay, let's carry on. I expect it to start loading the application, but let's carry on for now. Output CSS. So this is another. So CSS is another language that that programmers use to do things like, put colors, set the border width, for your web page. It's a nice language, very interesting one, but boring to me, to be honest. So for those who are developers among us, they understand what this code is doing. So app.css. So we're gonna delete everything and just put our own code in there. One more file to update index.css. Let's do that as well. You don't have to worry about all this CSS code and all that. It's fine. Okay, so I wonder why. Let me just cancel this and run it again. Run that. Okay. The reason is because it's running on a different port. I was wondering. Okay, 3,000. It's taking its time to load. It's not running. Let's try again. Because it does say it's running. Let's see if we run it on local hosts. Do we have anything back? Yeah, it's running. Right, okay. Let's see if the firewall allows port 3000. Maybe that's where the problem is. Any questions? I think we have gone past this step. Okay. Sorry about that, Lash. I wasn't looking at the chat at the time. Is it my network? Is it AWS messing up? I don't know. It's taking its time. Okay, so security. So we don't have 3,000. So that's why. So we need to update this security group. So you see the whole essence of tightening security and deciding who has access to what. There are certain applications that are used only internally within an organization. It's not meant to be used by people on the internet, on the outside world. These are some of the things that can be done to determine who has access to what. You can imagine a company with their maybe their finance application that does payroll and things like that. It has no business on the internet. It's only supposed to be used internally, right? So that kind of application will be limited to only certain people. So anywhere, so that anyone, you guys can have access as well. Okay, so let's go back. Invalid host header. Okay, let's see if there's any debug message. So we haven't actually configured any particular host header. Okay, Obafemi is able to see it. Let me try it on Cognito. I don't know. Let me open up a new browser. Cognito. Is anybody else able to see this? Obafemi has shown his, but let someone else try. I wonder why.
I don't know. Is that port open? Is the port open?
Yes, it is. It's open. I
Um,
mean, the fact that it's bringing back a
3,000.
message.
I think it's 33,000 that's open.
Is it? Oh, no. We've actually just opened up 3,000 now. We just see that.
Oh,
Yeah, you can see 3,000. So, okay. So
can we use the IP first
Yeah, let's try
instead
the
of the DNS?
Let's try that. Public IP is what we need. So it works with the IP. I wonder why it didn't work with the DNS. Let's try with the DNS again. Okay. Okay, so this may be related to some DNS issues with it. Let's see. AWS DNS.
Yeah, because I suggest.
I think you're breaking. Someone saying something? Okay, I'll try out what's going on because it's never happened like this before. So I wonder, maybe it's a temporary issue with AWS. I don't know, but we'll try to figure it out. But ultimately, we have the IP
Yeah,
address because now we're
I think
connecting directly.
that's because I think that's because, like you said, the this thing for AWS is kind of still kind of building. So I think the DNS, the POSI doesn't really work well when you are changing the rules, like the rules of the this thing while you are still in production. So that's why I actually suggested the IP. Sometimes it has happened to
Okay.
me before.
Okay. Okay. Well, we'll try to dig more into it. But for now, let's just realize that, okay, this is the end goal of what we're trying to do. At the end of the day, it's all about getting an application available for users. But you can see the pain that we've gone through to get to where we are, right? And this is pretty much what this whole 3-tier architecture is all about. So now let's talk about the 3 tiers. So the first one is the client. The client is where people interact with the application. You can see it's much more intuitive for me right now as a user who is not technical to just come here and say, okay, I want to get milk early in the morning. This is a to do, and I'm just going to hit enter or click so that I can add it to the list, right? And then I want to say by Tuesday, I must get to the gym. And then I add that. So this is a lot more intuitive than running some code, trying to put a JSON structure together in Postman and, and then much more functionalities can be added on top of this. But what's happening is this front end is taking exactly what I've written. It's helping us to structure it in JSON format and it's posting it to the application, which is in the, what's it called? In the middle tier, let me put it that way, the backend, right? The business logic side. It's sending it to it and that's processing it, deciding, is this a GET request? Is it a POST request? If it's a POST request, I'm going to take this and I'm going to save it in the database. So that's the 3 layers, the client, the business logic, and the backend database. Yeah. And as you can see, Olashide is already seen from Postman, I think. And if you go to the MongoDB, maybe Solomon can help us look into MongoDB and actually see that the data is getting stored there. So when you go to Instagram and you post your photos, that's essentially what's going on. Your mobile application is the front end, the client layer. You upload your photo, it sends it to the application that processes it. A lot of things happen with your photos when you post it. You can add filters, you can, all these different things happening on Instagram. Some people, you see them in the real world, they're different on Instagram. They look more beautiful and all that. It's because the business logic is there to process that photo and make it look better. And then it does many other things. It can resize it. So if you post a photo of maybe 500 MB, the business logic would say, hey, we're not going to save that kind of document or file on our servers because it's going to be very huge. Then it resizes it, it shrinks it, resizes it, and then ultimately it puts maybe some metadata to say the username of the person who has this data, the timestamp, many other things can go on with that one photo and ultimately gets saved in the database. The same thing happens for every application. This is like the de facto structure of what happens. So what we've done is just to demonstrate that. And you can achieve it with different web stacks. You can use LAMP stack to achieve it. You can use LAMP. You can use Mongo stack with MERN. You can also use it with MEAN. There's another one, MEAN. You know, Project 4 is another stack, which pretty much, satisfy the same similar thing. Exactly. Thank you, actually. Backend can actually be S3, which is a data storage in AWS. So if we don't want to store that in some database, we can actually not use database and just take it S3. It doesn't matter. We're going to use NFS at some point. It might be some NFS server. It might be anywhere. So we will see different use cases of all these. By the time we get to project 6, 7, you're going to see, more and more. All right. So this is so far. Can someone please share us a screenshot of what MongoDB is? And we want more people to actually put more data. Let's refresh it. If you go to this endpoint, try to put some things, right? Write some to-do list. Let's see what you plan to do tomorrow. Yes. Someone said project 3 completed. We can keep on refreshing. And this is what happens, the same IP address is what everyone all over the world will see, and they can interact with it, they can use it, right? And DevOps, again, is about helping application developers take their code, build it, test it in an automated fashion, and release it to customers so that people can go on the browser. Obviously, they're not going to put IP address. We'll get to that, how you can get a domain and use a proper domain, and the domain resolves to the IP address, and then eventually people can interact with your application, and that's it. All right, so Solomon has sent this URL. Let's have a look. So I hope that taking the pain to go back to project 3 to again today has actually been very, very helpful for everyone. So we can't log into your account. You get a screenshot, is fine. Okay. Any questions? Any questions, guys? I'm waiting so that we can answer questions. If there are no questions, this is where we're going to stop today. Next week, we will carry on from project 4. Now, please, guys, during the week, I need you to complete as much videos and projects as possible. Okay, I know it's a busy world we're in. You have families, you have 9 to 5, you have all the things you're doing, but go ahead. Let's see. If you go to your dashboard, oh, excellent. I see. Nice. So we have, let me bring this. So this is, 1 second. All right, so this is what someone has shared. So as you can see, we have the Solomon DB database that we configured, and I want to get make early in the morning. It's there. It has its own object ID. By Tuesday, I must get to the gym. With front end is now getting stored in the backend. Okay, so this is awesome. All right, so let's quickly go into the dashboard. And we are now on, where are we? Step 5. So we've just done MERN stack, step 5. So I would expect you to finish this Linux administration video, lesson 3, finish 7, lesson 5, finish step 8, logical volume management. Now, these are very short videos, very short, straight to the point videos. Lesson 9 on shell scripting. Try to finish that as well. Okay, try. This will help your Linux knowledge, and it's very important for us to get this whole Linux thing out of the way before we start talking about that much more advanced things like Jenkins and all that. You know, all of that will come in, and that's where you'll be spending more of your time working as a DevOps engineer. But this is the foundation that if you don't get this right, you're going to struggle when you get to the real world. We can do project 4. So if you guys don't finish all this before Saturday, we won't be able to do project 4. So I need to see, because I'm going to be able to track what you guys are doing from the back end. I can see everything, you know, the videos you watch, you know, we track all that data. So please make sure you watch all that videos, and then we can do project 4. If you don't do that, we won't be able to do project 4. So for those that have completed, some have completed already, that's good, that's awesome. But for those that have not completed, try as much as possible to do that this week. Then we can do project 4, 5, 6, and possibly 7 as well, between Saturday and Sunday next week. So for those that haven't caught up with the live sessions as well, you're going to have your video by morning. Zoom takes almost 24 hours to render the video and make it available. So that's why you don't sort of get it immediately. But in the morning, so during the week, spend time learning. It's all about learning. For the next few months, it's just all about learning, you know, and the end goal is going to be awesome. So thank you very much, guys, for giving me the opportunity to share my knowledge with you, and thank you for being part of this and for being involved, getting onto the server and doing things. I believe that's a very, very useful thing. Okay, so this will now come to the end of today. So I'm going to stop recording.
Recording stopped.
And does anybody have any question? Any questions at all? Let me see if Slack has any message. No. I'll actually said volume management about setting to rehab. Yes, we will enjoy more on volume management by weekend. So please try to finish all of that. All right then. Have a nice night.